Through the ghostly veil of the fiercest blizzard Alaska has seen in decades, our drone's camera pierces the white void. Each gust of wind threatens to knock our eye in the sky from its course, but we press on, searching. The stakes couldn't be higher. Somewhere in this frozen hellscape, 3 hearts still beat against impossible odds. Wait, there! 3 o'clock! The thermal imaging lights up like a beacon of hope. In the sea of blue and purple cold, 3 distinct red shapes pulse with life. They shouldn't be out here, not in this. Not when temperatures have plunged to 40 below, turning breath to ice and making every minute a battle for survival. The radio crackles with urgency. Base, this is Recon 1. We've found them. I repeat, we've found them. The coordinates come through, each number a lifeline. 71.2 north, 156.8 west. The infrared camera zooms in, and there it is. A massive paw bursts through the snow, then vanishes again, like a drowning sailor's last reach for air. 6 feet. Below the surface, a mother polar bear and her cubs are fighting for their lives. In all my years studying these magnificent creatures, Dr. Sarah Chen's voice trembles with a mix of awe and fear. I've never seen anything like this. What's about to unfold will challenge everything we thought we knew about these animals. Our drone's battery flashes its final warning, but before we lose sight, we catch one last glimpse of the vast Arctic wilderness, beautiful, merciless, and holding its secrets close. What we'll discover in the next 48 hours will not only push the boundaries of survival, but rewrite the very story of what we know about a mother's love in the wild. The clock is ticking. The storm rages on, and beneath the ice and snow, 3 hearts continue to beat, waiting to be found. Just 72 hours ago, these same Arctic plains told a different story. Our cameras tracked the mother bear, known to local researchers as Aurora, as she led her 4-month-old cubs across the vast ice sheets of Alaska's North Slope. The trio moved with the practiced grace that had made them legendary among our observation team, the cubs mimicking their mother's every move in a dance as old as time itself. Aurora has always been special, wildlife biologist Mark Townsend explains as we watch footage from those final peaceful hours. She successfully raised 2 other sets of cubs in some of the harshest conditions we've recorded, but this time, his voice trails off as satellite imagery shows the approaching storm system that would change everything. It began like many Arctic storms, a clash of warm and cold fronts colliding over the Beaufort Sea. But this was different. Weather stations across the coast began reporting unprecedented barometric pressure drops. Wind speeds doubled, then tripled. The temperature plummeted so rapidly that our weather monitoring equipment initially registered it as a malfunction. We've named it Hypercane Helena, meteorologist Dr. Jessica Patel explains, pointing to swirling radar images. It's a perfect storm of circumstances we've never seen before. The traditional ice caves and dens these bears rely on, they're simply not enough for conditions like these. The storm hit with the force of a freight train. Winds exceeding 80 miles per hour turned snow into horizontal sheets of ice. Aurora and her cubs were caught in the open, too far from traditional shelter. That's when she did something remarkable. Something that would challenge our understanding of these magnificent creatures. Timestamp, 48 hours before rescue mission. Temperature, 43 degrees flat and falling. Visibility, less than 10 feet. In the coming hours, as the storm intensifies beyond all prediction, Aurora will make a decision that sets in motion one of the most daring rescue operations in Arctic history. But first, she must do what no polar bear has been documented doing before, and she has to do it before her cubs succumb to the cold. You don't just walk into a storm like this. Veteran Arctic rescue specialist Kate Morrison shouts over the howling wind as she checks her equipment one final time. One wrong move, and we're not just risking our lives, we could lose those bears forever. Her team of 4 stands ready in the pre-dawn darkness, their specialized cold-weather gear making them look more like astronauts than wildlife rescuers. Timestamp: 6:15 a.m. Wind chill, 67 degree. Visibility: critical low. The first attempt to reach Aurora and her cubs fails before it truly begins. The rescue team's tracked vehicle, designed to handle the Arctic's worst conditions, grinds to a halt just 2 miles from base. Ice has formed inside the fuel lines, something that's never happened before in the vehicle's 15 years of service. The storm's creating conditions we've never dealt with, explains Tom Rodriguez, the team's mechanical engineer, his breath freezing instantly in the air. We're having to rewrite the rescue playbook minute by minute. As he speaks, the wind tears a chunk of equipment from the vehicle's roof, sending it cartwheeling into the darkness. Back at base camp, Dr. Chen pores over thermal imaging data, her face illuminated by screens showing rapidly dropping temperature readings. "The cub's survival window is shrinking," she says, her voice tight with concern. "Polar bear cubs can typically handle extreme cold, but these conditions..." She points to a graph showing core temperature estimates. They've been exposed far longer than any cubs we've studied. The team attempts a second approach, this time with snowmobiles modified for extreme conditions. They make it halfway to the bear's location before the whiteout forces them back. Kate's voice crackles over the radio. "Base, we've lost all visibility. Can't tell up from down out here." Timestamp: 8:45 a.m. Distance covered, 3.2 miles. Distance to bears, 11.8 miles as morning light struggles to penetrate the storm. The rescue team gathers for what they know might be their last chance. The bears' heat signatures are growing weaker. Whatever they try next has to work. There won't be time for another attempt. That's when Kate suggests something that makes even the veterans stare in disbelief. "We're going to have to do this the old way," she says, pulling out equipment that hasn't been used in decades. "Sometimes, to move forward, you have to go back." Kate's old way turns out to be something that hasn't been used in Arctic rescue operations since the 1970s: dog sleds. As her team unloads 5 Alaskan Malamutes from their heated shelter, she explains, "Modern technology has its limits. These dogs, they can smell their way through a whiteout. They can feel the changes in the ice that no machine can detect." Timestamp: 9:30 a.m. Temperature, 45 degree. Bear families time trapped, 41 hours. The dogs' excitement cuts through the howling wind as the team harnesses them to 2 reinforced sleds. Each carries minimal rescue equipment. There's no room for anything but the essentials. "Every ounce matters," Tom explains, securing the thermal blankets and medical supplies. "The lighter we are, the faster we move. The faster we move, the better chance those bears have." But it's what's strapped to Kate's back that draws everyone's attention. A prototype piece of equipment developed by the University of Alaska's Arctic Research Center. "We call it the Thermal Echo," Dr. Chen explains, her hands moving across the device's controls. It sends out pulses of infrared energy and reads the bounce-back pattern. In theory, it should let us detect large mammals through several feet of snow and ice. In theory. The emphasis on "in theory" hangs heavy in the air. The device has never been tested in conditions this extreme. As the team makes final preparations, their satellite feed catches something remarkable. The mother bear's heat signature shows periodic spikes of movement. She's not just waiting, Dr. Chen realizes, her eyes widening. She's actively working to keep her cubs warm. She's creating friction. This level of problem solving. Timestamp: 10:15 a.m. Distance to bears, 11.8 miles. Estimated travel time by dog sled, 3 hours in clear conditions. The dogs surge forward into the white void, their instincts guiding them through the chaos of the storm. Gates' voice comes through the radio one last time before they move out of range. If we're not back in 4 hours, don't send anyone after us. The bears won't be the only ones needing rescue. Behind them, on the base camp's monitors, Aurora's heat signature pulses like a beacon in the darkness. But with each pulse, the reading grows just a little bit weaker. The race against time has begun, and not everyone is certain it's a race they can win. The lead dog suddenly halts, its nose working overtime, body rigid with attention. Through the swirling snow, Kate's thermal echo device begins pulsing rapidly. They're close. The team has been traveling for 2 hours and 47 minutes, fighting through conditions that have left their equipment crusted in inches of ice. Timestamp 1:02 p.m. Temperature 47 degrees, visibility 15 feet and deteriorating. Base, we have a location. Kate's voice crackles through the static. But something's different. The thermal echo's reading shows an unusual pattern, not the scattered heat signatures they expected, but something more structured, more deliberate. As the team carefully approaches on foot, their headlamps illuminate something that makes even the most seasoned Arctic veterans stop in their tracks. The bears aren't just buried under the snow, they're in what appears to be a carefully constructed shelter. It's impossible, Dr. Chen whispers through the radio link. She's created an igloo. The thermal imaging confirms what their eyes can barely believe. Aurora has done something never before documented in polar bear behavior. She's built a domed snow shelter, complete with a narrow entrance tunnel and a raised sleeping platform, keeping her cubs off the ice. The construction mirrors traditional Inuit emergency shelters, displaying an architectural intelligence previously unknown in the species. Timestamp 1:17 p.m. Den temperature 15 degrees, significantly warmer than outside. Cubs' condition active but weakening. She's not just surviving, Dr. Chen continues, her voice thick with emotion. She's engineering. The dome shape, the small entrance, the raised platform. These are all features that maximize heat retention. This isn't just instinct. This is problem-solving at a level we never imagined possible. But the team's wonder quickly turns to concern as they detect another reality. The shelter, while remarkable, is slowly collapsing under the storm's relentless assault. Aurora's incredible innovation has bought her family time, but that time is running out. As Kate's team begins setting up their rescue equipment, a low growl emanates from the shelter's entrance. Aurora is aware of their presence, and now comes the most dangerous part of the mission, convincing a desperate mother bear that these strange figures in the storm are here to help. "We have one shot at this," Kate radios back to base. "If we spook her, she'll either charge us or retreat deeper into the shelter. Either way, we lose those cubs." Inside the shelter, Aurora shifts her massive body, positioning herself between her cubs and the entrance. What happens in the next few minutes will determine not just the fate of 3 bears, but our understanding of animal intelligence forever. Timestamp 1:25 p.m. Den structural integrity. Failing cubs activity level. Minimal the team works with. Practice precision, but their movements are anything but routine. Every action is calculated against 2 competing timers, the cubs' fading strength and the shelter's deteriorating stability. The storm, far from weakening, has intensified to near hurricane force winds. The snow shelter's internal temperature is dropping, Tom reports, monitoring a probe they've carefully inserted through the structure's wall. The cub's movement is decreasing. We're looking at maybe 30 minutes before hypothermia becomes critical. Kate makes a decision that has Dr. Chen's voice rising in alarm through the radio. "We're going to have to open a secondary entrance. The risk is enormous. Disturbing the shelter's structure could cause an immediate collapse, but it's their only option for a rapid extraction if Aurora becomes aggressive." As the team begins their careful excavation, something extraordinary happens. Aurora, instead of displaying typical defensive behavior, remains eerily still. Her eyes track their movement, but her posture shows neither aggression nor fear. "She's studying us," Dr. Chen observes through the video feed. This level of situational assessment is unprecedented. She's not just reacting, she's evaluating. Timestamp: 1:42 p.m., wind speed 82 mph, structure integrity 38% and falling. The shelter emits an ominous crack. A section of the dome sags inward, sending fine snow cascading onto the cubs. Aurora looks up, then back at the rescue team. In that moment, something passes between species. A recognition of desperate circumstances that transcends natural barriers. Kate's voice is steady but urgent. "We're out of time. We have to move now." The next few minutes will push the boundaries of both human courage and animal intelligence. As the team prepares for their final approach, Aurora does something that will be studied in wildlife biology courses for decades to come. She moves, ever so slightly, away from her cubs. "She's giving us permission," Dr. Chen whispers in disbelief. "She's choosing to trust us, but trust in the Arctic is as fragile as the ice itself. One wrong move could shatter more than just a snow shelter." Timestamp: 1:47 p.m., wind speed 85 mph, gusting to 90 temperature, 49 degrees zone. Rescue window, critical. The moment of truth arrives, with the sound of splintering ice. The shelter's dome begins to collapse, and in that split second, human and animal instincts merge into a symphony of survival. Kate and her team surge forward as Aurora lets out a low, rumbling vocalization. Not a growl, but something else entirely. She's calling to her cubs. Dr. Chen's voice trembles through the radio. She's telling them to stay calm. The rescue unfolds like a dance choreographed by necessity. Tom and Sarah deploy the thermal blankets, creating a protective tunnel between the failing shelter and their emergency transport sled. Kate, moving with the deliberate grace of someone who knows one wrong move means disaster, extends a specialized rescue pole with a heated platform toward the cubs. Timestamp: 1:49 p.m. First cub secured, second cub following. Aurora watches, her massive head swaying between her cubs and the rescuers. Each breath she takes creates a cloud of crystallized air, but she remains steady, defying every natural instinct to attack these strange figures handling her young. Suddenly, the remaining dome structure gives way. In a heartbeat, Aurora lunges, forward, not toward the rescuers, but toward the collapsing snow, her enormous body becoming a living shield over her cubs, and incredibly, the closest rescuer. "She's protecting Kate," Tom's voice cuts through the wind. "She's protecting all of us." Timestamp: 1:51 p.m. Both cubs secured in thermal transport. Aurora following under her own power, the retreat to the sleds becomes a blur of white powder and calculated movements. The cubs, wrapped in state-of-the-art thermal blankets, emit small cries that are quickly answered by their mother's deep rumbles. Aurora follows the rescue team, matching their pace, her eyes never leaving the precious bundle containing her young. As they reach the dog teams, Kate makes one final, unprecedented decision. She removes her outer glove and extends her bare hand toward Aurora. For a moment that will be replayed in wildlife documentaries for years to come, the great bear gently dips her head. Not quite a touch, but an acknowledgement that crosses the boundaries between species. Timestamp: 2:15 p.m. Rescue team and bears en route to base, all vital signs stabilizing. Stabilizing. What we've witnessed today, Dr. Chen's voice breaks with emotion, isn't just a rescue, it's a revolution in our understanding of animal intelligence, maternal instinct, and the capacity for trust between species. Aurora hasn't just survived, she shattered every limit we thought we knew about her kind. 6 months later, As the midnight sun bathes the Arctic coast in perpetual golden light, Aurora and her cubs patrol the same shores where their extraordinary story unfolded. The cubs, now significantly larger, display the same resourceful intelligence that saved their lives during that fateful storm. We've documented remarkable changes in their behavior, Dr. Chen explains, watching through a spotting scope as one of the cubs experiments with packing snow around a seal-breathing hole. They're not just surviving, they're innovating, just like their mother. The research station, once a simple observation post, has evolved into this Center for Ursine Cognitive Studies. Scientists from around the world now gather here to study what they're calling the Aurora effect, the previously undocumented capacity for polar bears to problem-solve and adapt to extreme circumstances. Kate Morrison, now heading the center's Rescue Response Division, points to a wall of screens showing real-time tracking data. What Aurora taught us that day has already saved 12 other bears in crisis situations. We've completely rewritten our rescue protocols based on the possibility of cooperation rather than confrontation. But perhaps the most profound impact isn't in the scientific papers or revised rescue manuals. It's in the way the world now sees these magnificent creatures. Footage of Aurora's snow shelter and her unprecedented cooperation with rescuers has sparked a global movement for polar bear protection, leading to unprecedented international agreements to preserve their Arctic habitat. As the camera captures Aurora leading her cubs across the tundra, she pauses, lifting her head toward the research station. For a moment, she stands perfectly still, her powerful form silhouetted against the endless Arctic sky. In her eyes, there's something that even the most hardened skeptics can no longer deny, an intelligence that demands not just our attention, but our respect. She didn't just change how we see polar bears, Dr. Chen reflects, her voice soft with wonder. She changed how we see ourselves in relation to the natural world. Sometimes it takes a mother's instinct to teach us that the line between human and animal intelligence isn't as clear as we once thought. In the end, Aurora's legacy isn't just about survival. It's about breaking down the barriers between species, one remarkable moment at a time. The cubs follow their mother over the horizon, but their story and its impact on our understanding of the natural world is far from over. In the Arctic's endless dance of survival, Aurora has taught us that sometimes the greatest discoveries come not from our technology or our science, but from our capacity to trust, to adapt, and to recognize intelligence in its many remarkable forms.